Welcome back to the Great Primeval Show. I am the Ark Minister, and I am joined by Ancient Realms and Hodgepodge. Today we'll be breaking down Episode 4 of Primeval Series 2, also known as Underwater Menace in North America,
Der Kanal,
in Germany, and
Disparition
in France. Written by Cameron McAllister and directed by Jamie Payne.
This episode starts out in a region of London known as the Isle of Dogs. The text on screen reflects this. Jamie Payne commonly uses location typography in his episodes to establish the setting. We see Lucian Hope playing basketball with his so-called friends. When retrieving a fumbled ball, he's suddenly dragged by an as-of-yet unknown creature into a nearby sewer drain that is flooding unnaturally quickly. Despite seeing Lucian clearly in distress in the drain, his supposed friends just scoff and ignore the poor guy as he gets pulled under. This was the second episode to receive an audio commentary, and was hosted by co-creators Tim Haynes and Adrian Hodges, and the director Jamie Payne. Haynes even points out how his friends don't even seem to care when Lucian is taken. Regardless, it appears that all that's left of poor Lucian is his shoe, and we'll see where his other shoe ended up later. I hope Lucian gets to keep his other clothes.
Where are my pants?
The basketball court was filmed near the Island Gardens train station in the real Isle of Dogs. This is a rare instance where the majority of this episode's setting and filming locations are one and the same. At the Ark, a new anomaly is detected by the ADD. Note that Leek is the first to respond here, running into the operations room. The anomaly detector struggles to pinpoint the new signal's coordinates as the anomaly closes too quickly after opening. The technician here is Mr. Carr, the guy who turned on the ADD for Connor in the previous episode. He clearly doesn't have Lacona Temple's magic touch, and we never see him again. Also, he loses his name in this episode, and is just credited as Ark Technician.
What's his name? What's his name? I got nothing on a name! Come on, baby, what's the name?
Leek slamming his hand on the desk seems very out of character for what's been established so far, but after his reveal at the end of the last episode, this acts as our first look into his more sinister nature. It's a little confusing here as Mr. Carr has pre-printed coordinates, but presumably they are meant to be the approximate coordinates for the current anomaly, as the team know that it's somewhere in the Isle of Dogs. Also, Mr. Carr gives a cheeky fourth wall break at Leek's BS.
At Abby's flat, we see Caroline still keeping an eye on Connor. Caroline turns his phone off in an attempt to delay him and Abby from going to the anomaly alert. Abby is doing some martial arts training on a punching bag. According to Jamie Payne, Hannah Spirit apparently had an injured back whilst filming this scene. To get around this, you can notice filming trickery here, as we don't see Abby punching, but the punching sounds trick your mind into thinking she actually is.
Do you want something, Caroline?
Abby's face shows that Caroline has already been getting on her nerves, even before Caroline decides to criticize her technique. Perhaps trying to show how she's better than Abby and fueling more conflict between her and Connor.
Like, that.
Connor's certainly impressed, while through Abby's smile, you can really tell that she's seething here. Payne also revealed that when Naomi Bentley did this kick, it split her pants directly to the camera. I wonder if Caroline's actually used that move on a real person. Abby then gets a message from Cutter about the alert, saying how he's been calling Connor.
Abby, I think I know if Cutter was calling me because it... Oh.
You say that, Connor, but even if Caroline hadn't switched it off, you still left it on the table on vibrate and didn't seem to hear it.
What could possibly be so important that you have to just leave everything?
Caroline tries to guilt trip Connor into staying, but they leave Caroline alone in the flat. She kind of looks genuinely upset here. It's hard to tell if it's because Connor is leaving or her wasted effort of cooking for him. She then calls Leek to fill him in.
They just left.
You were supposed to delay them.
I put them off as long as I could.
After being scolded by Leek, Rex then twists the knife by trashing the meal she prepped. Caroline just ominously stares at him, continuing the Rex-Caroline rivalry. Great attention to detail here. When Rex steps in the food, he leaves an indent and a footprint. Great work, Framestore.
By the time the team arrives to investigate, all of the floodwater in the drain has subsided, and all they find is the dislodged manhole cover and Lucian's shoe. Jenny has already sussed the situation and knows Lucien's name and who to contact about sealing the drains.
Maybe he's just lost his footing.
The first of many times where Stephen is wrong in this episode.
The rainfall's been below average for the month, and floods don't happen for no reason.
Ironically, this episode was apparently shot during a period of heavy rainfall in the area. Cutter and Stephen descend to explore the sewer tunnels.
I'm in the sewer!
The music in this scene is especially eerie and reflects the music that plays in the underground tunnels in Series 1, Episode 2.
What the hell is that? Lucien?
Yep, that unearthly choir-like voice coming from deep inside the drains definitely sounds like Lucy and Stephen. The pair hear a disturbance of metal clanging, and Stephen rushes off to look. Cutter's face here as he does so is great. They only glimpse an unknown creature disappearing into the murky depths.
Come on. They can only get out into the canal.
They rush out, narrowly missing...
Here comes the Crimson Chin!
The cleaner steps out of the shadows. The Chin is also here to find the anomaly and collect creatures. These tunnels were filmed in the Camden Catacombs below Camden Town in London.
You know? It's weird us rushing off together all the time.
Here's what you can tell her. Stop coming over to my flat every 5 minutes.
Our flat. Alright, your flat.
Classic Connor and Abby banter.
Why is she around so much anyway?
Don't be naive, Abby. You're looking at the reason, aren't you?
Oh, the irony, Connor.
Not much going on there, is there?
If I didn't know any better, Abby, you almost sound jealous.
Do you know what? You don't know what you're talking about. Why don't you stay out of it?
Connor?
You really feel how, despite her teasing him about Caroline, Abby seems genuinely hurt when Connor snaps back at her, showing how she really does care for him a lot, more than she may let on. This is also the first instance of a fair amount of bickering between these two in this episode, but it's for a good reason and has an excellent payoff. More on this later.
Is there any way out of this canal?
The locks have been closed, it's completely sealed.
Then it's still in here.
What is?
Not sure, but we have to find out fast.
Cutter, Stephen and Jenny arrive and the team commence the search of the canal, with Cutter doing his best impression of a ship masthead. The canal was filmed on and around the South Dock in the Isle of Dogs. According to the script, this was actually supposed to be a canal channel, but Jamie Payne convinced the producers that the dock was more visually pleasing, especially at night. However, the name canal remained in the final episode. Payne also stated that this was one of the more expensive episodes to produce of Series 2, as whenever they filmed scenes of the actors on boats, there would have to be several other boats off-camera, including camera boats and safety boats, as well as safety divers. As classic Primeval music swells, hyping up the search of the canal, we get a funny cut to nighttime, revealing how fruitless and boring the search is.
We've been searching for hours. We're never going to see anything in this light.
What's that over there?
Despite the darkness, Cutter manages to spot and hook some shedded mammalian skin out of the water. Gross. Tim Haynes stated that the skin was more integral to the mystery creature in the original script. However, Jamie Payne apologised for cutting down on its scenes in the final episode. These are very visually striking scenes, with the lights from the tall buildings silhouetting the characters on their watercraft.
I said port!
This is port.
But starboard then, right, just go before it disappears!
How am I supposed to tell him which way to steer if you don't know which way's which?
The bickering over Caroline has moved to unrelated matters. This is a new dynamic of Connor and Abby we haven't seen before. Jenny looks so done here. I imagine the soldier driving the boat must feel a bit awkward when these grown adults are
arguing like a couple of kids over a toy!
Look, out of the way. I'll do it.
Some unseen creature strikes under the boat, causing Jenny to fall overboard. Whether or not this was intentional is unclear. Jamie Payne states that they could only film Lucy Brown falling overboard once, as otherwise it would take too much time to dry her hair off and redo her makeup. So I suppose they got lucky it was perfect on the first try. For this same reason, the close-ups of Jenny in the water were filmed in a studio, and the wider shots of her swimming were a stunt double. Jenny luckily has the sense to inflate her life jacket since... and gently bobs in the water. However, sensing the distress in the water, a new species approaches, in the form of a killer shark.
That's a 20-footer.
25. 3 tons, Alan.
It must have travelled from wherever the anomaly was, through the flooded drains to get to the canal, so for the past few hours it's been patrolling the waters and getting hungrier and hungrier. Perhaps whatever bumped into the boat before was trying to escape this predator. Its fin cuts through the water as it speeds towards hapless Jenny. According to Tim Haynes and Jamie Payne, the dorsal fin was actually just a piece of wood being pulled by a wire, as it was buoyant and light enough to be pulled quickly through the water.
The shark still looks fake.
The music that plays here is Silurian Scorpions, yet is oddly used before their episode, which is the next one. Luckily, Stephen and Cutter heard the distress as well and rescue Jenny, putting an end to the shark before it reaches her.
Smile, you son of a...
The shark stops dead in the water as blood gushes out of it.
Get the body back to the Ark ASAP.
The logistics of this must have been interesting to witness. At least they had the cover of night to keep it quiet from any public view. As Jenny is rugged up, Abby looks at the skin. Cutter pauses and turns here in a very robotic manner, as we get our first glimpse of yet another creature, as one comes up to the surface, but submerging again before Cutter spots it. This also marks the first time in Series 2 where multiple species come through the anomaly in an episode, an occurrence that sadly will become rarer and rarer as the show goes on. I've always appreciated this, as not only does it provide more awesome creatures to look at, but also fleshes out the environments on the other side of the anomalies. There are so many parallels to Jaws, where you don't see the focal animal until halfway through the story, which helps create more mystery, intrigue, and a sense of danger.
Back at the Ark, we see the anomaly detector has been moved to the side of the ops room to bring in the shark's body for autopsy. This is the only time the detector gets temporarily moved in the show. In the outer rim walkway, we see Jenny with her hair completely down for the first time, and we, the audience, and Cutter recognise that this makes her look more like Claudia.
How are you doing?
3 months ago, my idea of a life and death issue was getting front row seats at London Fashion Week. How do you think I'm doing?
If Jenny has worked to the Ark for 3 months, and apparently 6 months in total have passed for the anomaly operation, then Series 1 was only 3 months long.
You don't have to do this. No, you can quit.
Quit, don't quit. Noodles, don't noodles.
I think I'll take my chances.
Give her 8 episodes and she might reconsider. Cutter can't help but accidentally call her Claudia, but...
For the record, I really hate that name.
After Cutter asks, Jenny reveals her fiancé doesn't know about the anomaly operation and isn't curious. Not that she'd be allowed to tell him due to the Official Secrets Act. When Jenny turns the question of partnership back on poor Cutter, he has to reflect on losing the only 2 women in his life by no fault of his own.
Yeah, I don't seem to be a particularly attractive romantic proposition at the moment. And on that note, if you'll excuse me, I have a hot date with a dead shark.
No notes here, just brilliant dialogue and performances from Dougie and Lucy Brown. This speculative future species of shark is one of the coolest creatures in the show, and yet it's only ever seen in 2 scenes in this episode. It's also one of the very few creatures to be entirely portrayed by practical effects. It has a distinct spine in front of its dorsal fin, something Tim Haynes states to be a feature of ancient sharks, such as the xenacanthids and hybodonts. Sure enough, it is very reminiscent of that of Hybodus, a shark or shark relative from the Jurassic, which also appeared in Walking with Dinosaurs and Sea Monsters. So maybe it evolved from one of those that wandered through an anomaly into the future. Alternatively, it could have just evolved a very similar feature independently, as the brown colour scheme, overall body shape, secondary dorsal fin and eyes are very reminiscent of modern deep-sea sharks such as lantern or kitefin sharks, so perhaps they are what this animal is descended from. Interestingly, the show The Future is Wild also featured a futuristic species of shark, the sharkopath, descended from a deep-sea species.
It's a tongue covered in teeth.
Its long, toothy tongue, or dentated basale, as Tim Haynes calls it, is a unique adaptation for a fish as far as I know. Most predatory fish rely on suction feeding by having their mouths closed until close enough to their target before opening their mouths, creating a vacuum that pulls water and the prey inside. This is also similar to the tongue of the future bird in the novel Shadow of the Jaguar. The shark is also seen to eat anything floating, including non-edible garbage. A tiger shark was once found to have swallowed a bicycle tire, so it's well within reason for this one to do something similar.
Tiger shark's like a garbage can, it'll eat anything.
A what?
Interestingly, despite naturally living presumably in saltwater, we see the shark also swimming in the freshwater canal. Sharks are unable to tolerate both freshwater and saltwater and stick to one or the other, with the exception being bull sharks, which are capable of switching between the two salinities. Perhaps the future shark has evolved a similar adaptation. Perhaps the future shark's most confusing feature is the strange dark brown patch on its head. It's never stated what this is or what its function would be, but this leaves room for speculation by fans. The Ark Minister, for instance, speculates that this is a cartilaginous carapace that protects the gills, a vulnerable spot for fish, and that are not visible on this animal. What do you think it is? Let us know in the comments below.
Suspending the corpse with a forklift is a very striking visual, and it differentiates from the usual tabletop autopsies, like the dodo in Series 1 Episode 4. Tongue jump scare. We have to commend Crawley Creatures who make all the primeval puppets and animatronics. This shark genuinely looks real, and it's the biggest puppet yet.
Unless I miss my guess, we're looking at the future evolution of a shark.
Having dealt with 2 future creatures already, and being very knowledgeable on pre-zoology, Cutter confidently guesses this shark is from the future. It makes a change since his first encounter.
Oh, look, hold on. What makes you so certain that it's not some lost species that's just disappeared from the evolutionary record?
As Cutter begins to slice open the shark, this is a very clear homage to the scene in Jaws where Hooper opens up the tiger shark under similar circumstances. And as was the case there, the shark is innocent, presumed guilty. When Cutter slices the shark's skin here, it's actually him pulling down a zipper to release the internal fluid. The ominous music swells here, and Cutter finds a basketball, and hey, is that Lucian's shoe? Oh, no, does that mean...
There's nothing else left in the stomach.
Oh phew, he's not actually in there. So where could he be? What actually took him? Note a goof where Abby briefly looks the wrong way as the ball bounces past her. Again, another great scene of the team collaborating to solve a mystery in this series, though Connor is strangely absent here.
Give me some good news.
We still haven't found the boy.
No, that's bad news. Good news makes people happy. Keep trying.
Classic Lester. He's equally funny and antagonistic at the same time.
There's another predator. Abby saw something.
Another shark.
While Stephen assumes there's another shark to blame, Cutter's hunch tells us otherwise. However, it's also possible multiple sharks could have come through the anomaly too, and not just the one the team found.
That wouldn't explain the singing. A shark can't make that sound, it doesn't have any vocal cords.
Love how you can see Stephen getting more and more annoyed at Cutter countering all of his points to Lester here.
What do we do?
We do see as Cutter tries to answer this, Stephen butts in with his suggestion before he can speak. This episode has a lot of infighting amongst the team, with Connor and Abby arguing over Caroline, and now Nick and Cutter arguing over where to search for the creatures.
Start the search of the canal again in the morning.
Despite Cutter's valid points about the creature being able to leave the water, Lester is oddly against his suggestion of widening the search, possibly because keeping the search to the canal would make the cover-up easier to explain. You can see Cutter is not happy with this order, but he keeps quiet. Note throughout this scene, Leek is present, but he's not directly shown. However, you can see his ghostly reflection overlooking Cutter's shoulder, a subtle reminder that he's not to be trusted and is working against the team. This could also be interpreted as him mirroring the team's action of finding the anomalies and creatures, but for very different reasons.
Good decision, sir. Exactly what I was going to suggest.
Really? How terribly reassuring.
Aside from this being the origin of our beloved Leek Eyebrows gag, he's most likely not just sucking up to Lester here to maintain his image. More likely, Leek agrees with Cutter's suggestion to widen the search onto land, but encourages the team to search the canal, to hopefully keep the team distracted whilst his own men can find creatures first. When Abby and Connor get back to her flat, Caroline has supposedly fallen asleep on the sofa, but note she sneakily switches the light on to attract Connor. Abby is near breaking point with Caroline's antics now. For sake, Caroline! We know you're upset that Rex ruined your lunch earlier, but locking him in the fridge is a bit harsh.
He ruined our salad.
Note how Caroline holds Connor back here despite the distressed cries from Abby.
Oh my god!
Happened!
Her anger truly shows how much she loves Rex.
I'll call a vet.
No!
Love how, despite their arguing, these two are still in sync whilst saving their not-quite lizard. They can't exactly get external help without revealing how unique Rex is. Luckily, Rex is saved with tinfoil. This is because the foil acts like an emergency blanket, reflecting Rex's body heat back onto himself. Abby later uses an emergency blanket herself when in the Cretaceous.
That's my blanket.
I'm sorry. I hope he makes it.
That glare from Abby tells us everything we need to know about her feelings. This scene cements Caroline's wedge between Abby and Connor.
Keep your girlfriend away from him in the future, yeah?
Sorry.
Though she's cross with him, we know Connor also cares for Rex equally. If you look carefully at Abby's fridge, you can see a screenshot of Rex from Series 1, Episode 1, a single photo of Abby, and a photo of Abby and Connor huddling together.
Cutter tries to make a point that searching the canal won't yield any results, to which Stephen argues again.
Look, there's something about this doesn't add up. I think we should widen the search to the canal side.
This is another one of your hunches, isn't it? We can't just drop everything. You know, there's a plan in place. Good plan.
Cutter seems somewhat uncertain about his hunch, but...
Well, when have I ever been wrong? Except about women, generally.
Seems like he's still sore about this topic since his chat with Jenny last night.
Cover for me.
No, because you're wasting time.
While Stephen is following his hunch and Lester's orders, Cutter does put him in a tricky spot by disobeying both of them, Maverick style.
Cutter virtually owns the copyright.
10 minutes.
Cutter naturally decides to do his own thing. Whilst looking around the docks...
Hey!
The cleaner is spotted! Cutter could spot that chin from a mile away. Seems like he's looking for creatures as well.
There goes the crimson chin!
Cutter gives chase, but the cleaner out-chins him and flees into the bows of a boat, somewhat reminiscent of the orca from Jaws. Oh, the way he stands here is so ominous. We know Cutter's heading into trouble.
I know you. I know your face.
Even from a distance, he recognised him. Not a man of words.
I don't talk.
The cleaner takes the easiest option and decks the professor in order to escape his Scottish grasp. That's the second time he's been knocked out by a guy in a Special Forces uniform. If I had a nickel... I'm not doing that joke. We don't know how long our hero has been incapacitated, but since no one went looking for him, it must still be within the 10 minutes. When Cutter wakes, he begins to hear eerie sounds coming from just outside the boat in the water. It's pretty spooky how close these creatures are, but you can't see them. Tom Dye's plays as a mysterious theme instead of a sad theme here. Having been ditched by Stephen, Cutter turns to Connor and Abby and tells them how he just got chinned.
Seen him before. In the mall. He was the cleaner.
Now that both Connor and Cutter have spotted the cleaner disguised as a Special Forces soldier, they suspect they're being watched, thought by Lester. The trio get recordings of the creatures singing in the same way Nigel Marvin got Basilosaurus audio in Sea Monsters. And they plan to use the same method of playing the audio back on a speaker to try and draw them out.
It's nothing, it's just shrimps and fish, isn't it?
Connor and Abby begin to argue again and get on Cutter's nerves.
Look, what is going on with a pair of you?
Connor's dating Cruella de Vil.
This is a 101 Dalmatians reference. While searching, Abby glimpses a scary-looking face peering at her through the water and quickly recoils. In another reference to Sea Monsters, this sequence uses tense music samples also used in that show.
Guys. Nothing.
What do you mean nothing, Abby? There's no harm in telling them that you saw the creature you're looking for. Goddamn horror movie tropes.
Maybe no one's home, eh?
We see Cutter being really stubborn here with not wanting to give up the search until he gets some proof. He's so focused that he's jeopardizing the safety of his team. Even Connor's doubting his professor. There is a discrepancy here, as this is apparently elsewhere and not in the canal, yet uses the same filming location. When the other two are distracted, a sea monster can't resist taking a female human captive, like some 50s B-movie monster. Classic.
Something's taken her!
Abby! Put that down, you could kill Abby!
At least Cutter has the sense to tell Connor this before he accidentally impales her.
Don't let them impale me!
Cutter attempts a dive. Gold star for effort. Come to think of it, why the flipping heck didn't he have a life jacket on this whole time?
I'll never put on a life jacket again.
Interestingly, in Through the Anomaly, we briefly see Dougie wearing a wetsuit, but Cutter is never seen wearing one in Series 2. Dougie was most likely wearing it under his clothes for this scene.
Get help! Now!
Jamie Payne stated that this helicopter was not actually a part of the search effort, but just happened to be flying overhead whilst filming. The reactions of the team and the montage of searching the canal for any signs of Abby are taken very seriously, as it seems though Abby has indeed been killed. The team have to rest after hours, much to Connor's dismay. Lester, Leek and Jenny arrive, with Lester all set to scold Cutter for disobeying orders. Meanwhile, Connor calls out Cutter's actions in anger.
We told him to get help, but he wouldn't even come. You wouldn't even go and get help. Why? Why didn't you get help, Cutter?
And now the girl's dead.
She's not dead. She's not dead.
I'm not dead!
All we need to do is get back in the boats and do something. Why is nobody doing anything?
This is a fantastic emotional performance by Andrew Lee Potts here. He is usually the joker of the team, but seeing him serious makes the audience pay more attention.
Take him out.
Lester shows little to no emotion towards Abby's disappearance, but instructs Jenny to take Connor home, so he's out of the way. You have to respect Ben Miller's acting, that he can be equally funny yet completely serious and in control of the team.
How very gracious of you.
This line mirrors another line from Series 1 Episode 6.
How public-spirited of you. Go home.
Go home.
You're in charge.
This is an excellent dilemma, having leadership taken from one of our protagonists and given to another. Further conflict between Cutter and Stephen.
We have to go over every inch of the canal again.
It feels like both he and Cutter are being unnecessarily stubborn, as Stephen has just carried out an entire sweep of the canal and found nothing, yet is still adamant the creature is in there, perhaps just to spite Nick.
Careful. This suit costs more than your education.
We get some very striking shots of Abby underwater and unconscious, over scenes of Connor grieving back at the flat. The visuals are also likely Connor's visions haunting him. We see Rex has recovered from his fridge ordeal, and his animal instincts kick in as he flutters in to comfort Connor. The music playing here is a pseudo-love theme for Abby and Connor, however it is incomplete here and won't finish until they are reunited later. Apparently in the original script, a grieving Connor was supposed to arrive back at the flat, take off his coat and see Rex in his tank. Andrew Lee Potts was prepared for this but was thrown when Jamie Payne decided to have Connor up in the rafters, and they apparently had their first and only on-set argument over this. Payne commended Andrew for dealing with the change really well in the final version.
There's bubbles there, back! Back there!
Abby awakens underwater and rushes to the surface for air. We see her and Lucien are trapped in a large gridded water tank. Perhaps the reveal of her still being alive could have been drawn out a little longer, but too long and it wouldn't have been realistic. When Abby and Lucien start pounding against the grate, one of the creatures appears above them, forcing them down.
My friends are looking for us. They're gonna be here soon.
It's touching to see Abby not only giving Lucien hope, ironically by reassuring them that they'll be rescued, but also that she has faith in the team that they'll find them. The warehouse scenes were shot in the Abbey Mill pumping station in East London, with the tanks being built by the art department and filled with water. However, the shots inside the tank were filmed in the studio. Feeling guilty and responsible for what happened to Abby, in spite of just being fired by Lester, Cutter is now more determined to find wherever the creatures are hiding. Whilst he scours over several maps of the drains connected to the canal, Jenny secretly tips Cutter off.
A local builder's lodged a complaint. He can't get in to demolish an old warehouse because the basement flooded in the tidal surge. At the very least, it's definitely worth checking out.
You could say that Jenny's a real
team player. Hey, this petty-minded bureaucrats go do the best.
I believe Cutter is complimenting you, Jenny. Or trying to. Connor is still grieving in Abby's flat.
Would you watch me grieve?
The window appears to be overlooking the Isle of Dogs, which only adds to Connor's anguish, though apparently the window is just CGI'd in. If you look carefully, you can make out some of Abby's photos, which are all from Series 1. From left to right, 2 unknown shots of Abby, an image of Abby from Series 1 Episode 4, And from Series 1, Episode 1, a screenshot of Rex, a screenshot of Abby with Rex, and a promo of Abby and Rex in the Forest of Dean.
Connor. Look, listen to me. It was my fault. I should have asked for backup, and I didn't. And that arrogance cost the life of a very brave, very beautiful girl.
It is very touching to see Cutter apologise over the phone about Abby to Connor, where he really regrets not getting any backup. This phone call was redone in post with ADR, as it started raining during the filming, and the sound of the rain hitting the car roof drowned out the dialogue.
Don't tell my mates, will you?
Lucian, now's not the time to worry about your masculinity. Not that your mates cared about you being abducted earlier. This is such a chilling shot of the Mer, swimming below Abby and Lucian, silhouetted against the ceiling lights, and the only time we actually see them swimming, funnily enough. Jamie Payne stated that this shot was actually filmed using a mirror at the bottom of a shallow tank, as there wasn't enough room for the camera to film from below the actors. In yet another reference to sea monsters, newly elected team leader Stephen and the Special Forces sweep the entire canal a second time using a submersible ROV.
We swept the whole canal.
Sweep it again.
Okay, Stephen, this petty stubbornness in trying to prove Cutter wrong is just getting ridiculous now. This will be the third time sweeping. Luckily, Stephen spots the entrance of a drain pipe on the ROV's camera feed and tells the pilot to go down it. The water in the ROV's video feed was also done by Framestore.
Listen, the opening's too small. We're going to smash up the sub.
I'll buy you a new one. Just keep going.
This poor sub driver's getting bullied by Stephen. Then again, if his flat is anything to go by, Stephen must be pretty well off financially, so maybe he actually could buy a new one. Then again, the ARC staff wages are supposedly...
next to nothing?
Cutter arrives at the warehouse, but finds the entrance to the basement sealed by a chain-locked metal grid.
This out?
Okay, does anyone else feel like this shot is framed as if Connor's about to hit Cutter over the head with that crowbar? He was pretty cross at Cutter earlier.
With respect, I'm not doing it for you.
The exchange between these two is so telling of Connor's character and his true feelings about Abby. As is this whole episode, honestly. Connor isn't actually cross at his professor, just the situation. We also get our first look at the upgraded handheld anomaly detectors on screen. An upgraded version apparently appeared in the first two novels, following the prototype last episode. However, in The Lost Island, Connor states, "I'll build a better one," which may be referring to these. While Stephen pilots the ROV and Cutter and Connor explore the warehouse, their handheld detectors go off simultaneously as the anomaly reopens, confirming Cutter's suspicions. They encounter a brick wall and decide to smash through it.
Smash it then!
Jamie Payne stated that this was a real brick wall they found on location, and Dougie really did break through it with a crowbar, brick by brick.
Here's Nikki.
When Abby gets pulled under by the Mer, she uses a stock scream sound. The dynamic duo enter the room and rescue Lucian from the drain. All the voice work here was added in with ADR as the splashing water was too noisy on location. After recovering slightly from his incarceration, Lucian declares that
You've got to help Abby! What? Abby! Abby's still alive!
It's nice that Lucian was worried about Abby, despite only just meeting and under very unfortunate circumstances. Upon hearing this news, Connor doesn't hesitate to rush off to look for Abby. Elsewhere in the basement, Abby is thrown out of the water by one of the creatures, somehow. Abby fends off the creature, ironically by not using the kick technique Caroline suggested earlier, but her own scissor kick, paying off that minor plot thread. It's quite funny how the Mer is about to try and punch her by the look of it before this happens. Both of these shots were filmed in a studio in front of a green screen. Hannah's spirit was suspended on a wire and was both pulled up and outwards of the water with the creature added in below her in post, and the kick was also done using wires. Apparently Hannah's background in dancing greatly helped with this stunt.
Lucian, what did it look like?
What the hell is that?
The name of these mysterious, speculative, amphibious mammals of the future, the Mer, or Mer creatures, are strangely never stated at any point in the series, only being confirmed by promotional materials such as the toys made by Character Options. Whilst the Mer are primates, their strong convergence with pinnipeds, the group including seals, sea lions and walruses, is no accident. as Darren Hawley's original concept art for the Mer was of a very walrus-like creature before making them semi-aquatic primates. Fittingly, a lot of walrus sounds are used for the Mer, as well as those of bears, which is very common in these kinds of shows. In the same vein as the pinnipeds, the Mer would be descended from a terrestrial ancestor and most likely evolved webbed hands and feet that eventually became flippers.
The limbs will become flippers, and the tail will become a fluke.
Their primate heritage is best seen in the head, which is very baboon-esque, with a long snout and very large canines, and strangely mobile eyebrows. From this, we could actually infer the location of their future shoreline home we'll see later, as possibly being on the coast of Africa, if the Mer are in fact descended from baboons. Alternatively, Cutter speculates that the Mer may in fact be descendants of humanity. A popular fan theory, and in our timeline video, which you should watch, we speculated that the Mer and the future shark lived roughly 50 million years in the future, and that the future predator naturally evolved 100 million years in the future. Whilst not known for certain, this is based on yet another inference from a statement made by Tim Haynes in an interview, stating that the future predator evolved, quote, in the absence of primates, implying that it would have evolved sometime after the days of the Mer, with primates possibly even becoming extinct. This time interval also coincides with the Spec Evo book Afterman, A Zoology of the Future by Dougal Dixon, also set 50 million years in the future, which also happens to feature an aquatic primate.
So to sum up then, we're looking for a deadly skin-shedding aquatic predator with a neat line in Charlotte Church impressions.
Another interesting aspect of the Mer is their ability to sing, much like modern whales. This may be another link to their primate ancestry, as some modern primates have very sophisticated vocalizations, such as gibbons. Whales are thought to sing by contracting their throat and chest muscles to vibrate their larynxes. Perhaps the Mer have convergently evolved a similar method of vocalizing. Whilst never explicitly stated, their name and overall appearance heavily implies that the Mer may have inspired the myth of Mer people, as well as sirens due to their singing, by travelling through anomalies to earlier points in human history. In the real world, it is thought that the Mer people myth was in fact created by sailors misidentifying dugongs somehow. Their skin has a speckled texture to it, as well as counter shading, being lighter on the bottom and darker on the top, appropriate for an aquatic animal. We also have some individual variation, with some having green stripes down their backs and others having a more uniform dark grey coloration. Perhaps the former are males and the latter are females. The Mer appear to be highly intelligent generalist carnivores. Not only do we see them quickly establish a territory in the warehouse basement while some were temporarily marooned in the present, but also stockpiling human prey, presumably to eat later when food may be scarcer, by navigating the network of drain pipes and nearby canal. We later see them eating fish in episode 7, implying they have a varied diet, which is also common amongst primates. Yet another fascinating aspect of these fictional creatures is their social structure. In their home time period, we see them living in large groups on the coast, very reminiscent of pinnipeds. What makes this so interesting, however, requires the introduction of a certain lady, but we'll talk about her in a little bit.
Yes! 2 points! Who says I can't play?
Wow, that was a very bouncy rock. Also, at least he didn't fumble the rock like the basketball.
Nice shot.
Shot?
Whilst distracted by Lucian's newfound skills, Cutter is ambushed by a Mer using one of the pipes as a water slide, knocking him into the water tank, but then seems to just disappear? Whilst you can't see the Mer, ironically, if you look closer, you can see the wire they used to pull Dougie backwards. We see Cutter's plot armor in full effect once again as the Mer surfaces behind him, and partakes in the trope of a villain hesitating to attack the main character for no good reason. It literally just floats there, growling at him and flapping his little floppy flippers at him. A very nice interaction with the trickling stream of water landing on its head from above, though. This was done with the person wearing black all over and adding the CGI creature on top. Another iconic cutter face here. Nick is then saved, however when Steven's ROV surfaces behind the creature, it attacks it, cutting the video feed and distracting it long enough for Cutter to climb out.
The ROV had seen it all.
I bet the sub-operator is devastated. Upon seeing this, Steven decides that the most rational thing to do is to grab an assault rifle and a pistol, jump into the canal and swim through the drainpipe. Connor meanwhile is overjoyed upon finding Abby, still alive and well.
It's okay! You're safe now!
Spoke too soon, Connor.
Rising from the water is a mer queen. Whilst the regular mer creatures are roughly 4 to 5 meters long and about 2 meters tall when rearing, the queen is a whopping 11 meters long and 5 meters tall, making her one of the largest creatures ever encountered in the show. She also appears to have a thick layer of blubber like a walrus or elephant seal. She has a striking red stripe down her back, and just like the regular mer, the texture looks fantastic. Amazing work as always, Framestore. As I was saying earlier though, Her Majesty does raise some questions about the social structure of the mer. The name Mer Queen would obviously imply they are female, but also that their group structure may be colonial, perhaps even having a caste system like ants or termites. Does this mean all of the regular mer are males? Are all females queen size? And do only the queens reproduce? There is in fact a colonial mammal with a caste system alive today, the naked mole rat, showing that this social structure is not exclusive to insects. Whether the mer are an example of this, however, is unknown. Alternatively, it's possible the mer queen is a different species to the regular mer that just lives amongst them, perhaps even stealing their food on occasion. This theory might be supported by the fact we later see the mer queen aggressively shove the smaller animals out of the way to try and get to Abby. All of these fascinating aspects make the mer my personal favourite creature in the entire show. I just love these weird sea monkeys. We recommend watching the Unnatural History channel's more in-depth video on the mer creatures too.
After her glorious entrance, the Mer Queen backhands Connor, giving us Wilhelm number 12. Discounting Captain Ryan in the recap of Series 1, this marks the only time where a Wilhelm scream is used for a main character. Not sure how well it fits, but glad they gave it to Connor, given the choice. Abby is then taken by the Queen, presumably King Kong style, through the anomaly. Somehow. Why doesn't Abby just try and run away here? The Mer Queen doesn't strike me as the most athletic thing in the world. After being knocked into a tank of goodness knows what, Connor clambers out and rushes to the anomaly, in dramatic slow motion for some reason, to save Abby and straight through the anomaly regardless of any perils that lie beyond. Such is the determination. You tell him, Nick. Steven somehow held his breath for the entire swim, and his gun still works, despite being underwater, and the dramatic echo they give to him coming up for air only adds extra flair to an awesome sequence.
Connor crawls up the jagged coastal rock formations right next to the anomaly. This is the first time any of the team enter the future through an anomaly. Cutter and Steven's only time in the future too, and yet none of them make a big deal out of it, unlike Series 3, Episode 8.
So the bug is from the same place as the artifact?
It's possible.
And the artifact is from the future, right?
Yeah.
Which means that the future could be just the other side of the anomaly.
I suppose they were a bit occupied with rescuing Abby to take in the surreality of it. This is also Abby and Connor's first time through an anomaly on screen. However, they did go through some in the Lost Island novel. The future shoreline was filmed in Ugan Beach in Fuerteventura in the Canary Islands, and it is such an awesome looking place. Due to its jagged terrain, strong winds and crashing waves, the actors were attached by wires to members of the crew to support them. The weather was so hot the cast's clothes kept drying, so they were constantly sprayed with water to maintain the wet look. This future is shown to have constant thunderstorms in the background, suggesting this location may be of a seasonal climate and linking it to the unstable environment created in the future. Jamie Payne stated they originally planned to make the sky red in post, however this idea was abandoned due to time and budget constraints. If you look closely in this shot, it's impressive just how many mer can be seen moving on the beach in the distance, even though you can barely make them out. There is also a pair sleeping together here. Hats off, Framestore. You can also hear the mer singing in the background. Seems like Abby escaped the Mer Queen somehow, and Connor eventually finds her at the foot of a cliff. If I had a nickel for every time a mer creature was killed by a rock hitting it in the head... Okay, why do so many specific things in this show happen twice, and only twice? Ah! As Connor reaches down to pull up Abby, the Mer Queen spots them and starts lumbering their way.
I like 'em big, I like 'em chunky.
The shots of Abby hanging from above were filmed on a much smaller cliff with a green screen used to make Abby look much higher up. The stunt coordinators were actually holding Andrew's legs in many of these shots. With Her Majesty rapidly approaching and Connor unable to pull Abby up on his own without losing grip on the rocks, we get a very intense emotional exchange between the two. She would rather die than have Connor dragged down with her.
I love you!
Abby is too stunned to react to this right now, but these words have implications, Connor.
Time to go.
In a swelling musical score, the cavalry arrives as Cutter grabs Connor and helps pull Abby up in time, narrowly evading the jaws of the Mer Queen. Tim Haynes, Adrian Hodges and Jamie Payne all joke that they're not even sure how Cutter grabbing Connor's hand here helps him to get a better grip on Abby. Stephen comes to aid his friends with guns.
You shot me!
The team can get away with this murder, see what I did there, because these creatures are from the future.
If we kill it can't affect the past or the present.
This is one of the greatest and most emotional scenes of the original team, bar Claudia.
Claudia?
Once the main cast are all safely back in the present, Connor and Abby are escorted to safety, whilst Cutter and Stephen stand armed, guarding the anomaly alongside the special forces. You can also see Stephen checking his gun here, possibly for any water damage. A goof here is that you can see Cutter and Stephen waiting in the background before they actually approach in 20 seconds.
Abby, your mates, they came.
See, Lucian? Real friends help you in your time of need.
He's not my boyfriend.
This is such a good face from Lucian here. He's not buying it, Abby. Similar to the firefighter in episode 2, he was a likeable one-off supporting character who actually helped out the team. Hopefully he starts hanging out with a nicer crowd in the future though.
Has the anomaly closed?
No. Still there and it's likely to recur.
As far as we know, this anomaly is left open for the foreseeable future. Lester plans for the anomaly site to be covered by concrete. I mean, if the building was going to be demolished anyway.
Shall I speak to the contractors?
No, don't worry, I'll get myself a shovel and a cement mixer and do it myself. Yes, of course you should speak to the contractors, you idiot.
Not only is this a great and funny interaction, but it also means that Leek now has full, unquestionable access to the anomaly to gather creatures from it. Leek's little reaction after Lester walks off is priceless.
I was lucky. Yeah. You were.
Stephen realising he cannot fight the writers making Cutter always right.
Of course I was right.
Is that what our future is going to look like?
Interestingly, Cutter speculates here that by the time the Mer evolved,
Humanity's going to be long gone by then.
suggesting that the Mer's home time period is indeed fairly far in the future. Adrian Hodges teases here that Series 3's plot will be about the future.
Yeah, it's possible.
Wow. Didn't fancy yours much.
Series 2 continues to give us cheeky banter between Abby and Cutter. As Abby and Connor return to the flat, the love theme music starts playing again.
I thought you said something about how you felt about me.
Brilliant, sincere performances by both Hannah Spirit and Andrew here, who were dating at the time, and their chemistry definitely shows. Connor is on the verge of spilling his heart here, but...
Abby,
clam jammed again. We can only imagine how much better their relationship would be if they could have expressed their true feelings.
You're not even dressed.
Not dressed? What do you mean?
The theatre, remember?
Wow, are you not going to get a shower first, Connor? This is the only time we see Caroline not wearing her iconic white pants. Abby is devastated here, but hides it from Caroline.
Abby, you look absolutely exhausted. You really must let me talk to you about makeup sometime.
Considering Abby's been practically drowned in cold, dirty canal and sewage water all day, and it only resulted in her eyeliner getting a bit smudged, I'd say she knows what brands are most suitable for her line of work. Abby is left alone once again with Rex, happy of her return.
It was a mistake. Cutter wasn't meant to be there.
Once again, the cleaner is shown to be inept at his job. To be fair, he did get very unlucky with Cutter just happening to check out the same place that he did at the same time. The cleaner appears to be in the walkway behind the ops room in the Ark. Lucky no one spots him out there through the glass window. Leek warns him to be careful in the future.
There goes the Crimson Gin!
Hopefully Cutter won't remember him.
Nick has an excellent memory for faces.
Oh, Helen's here. Hello. I suppose she must be referring to Claudia and Jenny when she says this. Apparently some people misheard a line of dialogue from Leek saying,
Remember, I have a lot riding on this as well.
And assumed he was saying Siswell, referring to the cleaner's real name. However, he actually said this as well.
Now that I see people very rarely, it's hard to know if my judgment is as good as it used to be.
This is because she faked her death 8.5 years ago and left the present to travel through time. Seems like Helen's personality is to use her womanly ways to get anything she desires. I dread to think what she and Leek may or may not have done. How much can you make Leek leak? After a brief exchange about plans, Helen leaves the car for places unknown, possibly the Devonian, as we find out in the next episode. Does Leek live in this car? Headcanon, yes. Yes, he does.
This is the final episode directed by Jamie Payne, who didn't return for unknown reasons, and this is also the last water-based episode until Series 5. This episode also continues Impossible Pictures' trend of the fourth episode being the emotional one. In closing, episode 4 takes place over 2 days, and it's most likely a few days to a week between this and the next episode. Join us next time for the breakdown of episode 5 of Primeval Series 2.
What's the difficulties of wearing a wetsuit, Dougie?
Having a pee.